We're going to talk more about how to find quality public domain content. And as we already talked about the Gutenberg project, I wanted to point out that it also offers public domain books in several different languages, including Hungarian, Chinese, Russian, and Mayan. So you also need to consider that with public domain content, you're not just limited to the English language. You can tap into other languages, which literally and virtually is not really marketed to, and so it could be a great opportunity to sell information to other markets if you were interested in that. Or you could compile these and sell them and basically compile the information and get other people to buy the rights to get this information out there. All sorts of things you can do, especially when you're marketing to other languages. So a lot of opportunities there as well. You could also find audio version of the books at Gutenberg also. And so that gives you just another source of information. So the audio versions have public domain rights, so you get the rights to use those. Another site, Abe Books, is another useful public domain tool available to you. And you can visit their site at www.abebooks.com. Abe Books, it's basically another site that you can tap into and conduct searches on to find public domain content. Abe Books has an extensive network of books found within the public domain. It features a built-in search engine for finding books in any niche or topic that you choose. And so it allows you to do a search by niche, which is very, very important when you're searching and trying to find public domain content. Because there's so much content out there, if you had to go through everything alphabetically or just, if there's really no order to it, it could take you a long time to sift through the information and find what you want. And so what Abe Books has is a search engine. So you could type in your topic, like you could type in relationships, fitness, weight loss, romance, whatever niche market, motivation, entrepreneurship, success, money, whatever public domain niche you want to be going after and finding content in to start building your internet empire with public domain content. That's what you would use in the search engine, and Abe Books gives you that ability. You can also run date-specific searches on Books to determine if a book is available for public domain use. And that's really powerful because, like I talked about, everything prior to a certain year in one of the previous videos is always considered public domain content. And then there's another period, 1923 to 1963, that there is kind of a, some are considered public domain, some are copyrighted, depending on if they were to, select that or not. And so you could actually do a search for the books, by the niche of the book and then by the year they're published. So you would know that everything published prior to 1923, for example, would be automatically public domain content. So you could do a search for all books prior to 1923, or you could do a search for just romance books or entrepreneurship or success type books, motivation type books, personal development books, all that stuff prior to 1923, and you then would know that you have found something that you could possibly use. So that gives you some ideas. So again, that is abebooks.com, and you could run your search from 1963 or before, but keep in mind that some still may be copyrighted from 1923 to 1963. But at least you can find some book subjects, even if you did it from 1963, searches from all books published in 1963, and then you went to the copyright website and found if it was actually copyrighted, one of the other URLs that we'd given you, then you could do that and see if it is indeed copyrighted. And if it's something you really, really, really want to use and you're still concerned about it, you could always go to the attorney like we talked about, but you don't have to because you can do some of the free steps. Some other websites to use for finding public domain books are bookfinder.com, ibiblio.org, and www.alibris.com. And so when you find a book you want to use, you can either buy a copy of it or download a digital copy through Gutenberg. So basically once you use these sites to conduct your searches, the Abe Books, Bookfinder, eBiblio, Alibris, once you use these sites to find the public domain work or public domain book that you're interested in, and once you've done like a copyright check to make sure that you have the right to use that book and that it is indeed in the public domain, once you found that book, you could go to the Gutenberg project that we already talked about. You can just go to Google and type in Gutenberg project if you want. And what it will do is it will tell you if they have a downloadable version of that book, and a lot of times they have it in downloadable text-based format, which is great for reformatting, for rewriting it, and then you can move it into a Word document and do your own formatting on it if you want to turn it into a PDF, or you could take bits and pieces of the article and submit it to article directories or add it as content to your website. There's a lot of different things that you can do there, and so Gutenberg lets you do that. And if they don't have it at Gutenberg, you could also, basically what you would do is you can buy the book from these, and I know it costs a little bit of money, but these sites are commercial sites selling these, and you could buy the book from them, and usually it's very, very inexpensive, and the book comes to you, and then you could actually do a scan of each page, and you could do a scan called OCR, and basically that would ensure that your text actually shows up, that the actual text becomes editable after you scan it. And so we can go into that in more detail. But here, to close out this video on where to find good public domain information and resources, there's also some good sites to find good public domain image resources, because as you will recall, I talked about earlier in a previous video, we discussed a video or some way people are making money using images and using pictures and turning those into things like screensavers, into coffee mugs, into shirts, into all sorts of things. They're taking that content, turning it into all sorts of things, and creating an entire business around these things using public domain images. And so here's some sources you can go to find public domain images that you can use. The Library of Congress is one. You can find that at www.loc.gov/library/libarch-digital .html. And if you're having problems finding that, you could simply actually do a Google search probably for Library of Congress image search or something of that nature to look for it. The New York Public Library is another great source for information, and you see that URL on your screen as well. And you could actually pause this video and write that down, or just do a search again for the New York Public Library, or visit their main website. And it hosts over 1 million public domain images that you actually have access to. But keep in mind that some images, there are considered there are some restrictions possibly on some images and some of the public domain content that you run into from time to time when you get it from these certain websites. And so there is a way around that, though, because what happens is some of these sites, because they're hosting the content, because they put in all this effort to actually, compile this information, then they put on like a restriction where, you can't use it maybe for commercial reasons or something like that, or they might do stuff like that. Use the direct image if it's hosted on their site or file is hosted there. But you can actually take that exact information and search for it until you find it on the public domain on your own. So all is not lost when you find it, because you can still do just about anything when you go directly to the public domain for full rights. And directly to the public domain is using many of these resources found within this video. So these are just some great places and resources for tapping into areas where you can get more public domain content that you can start profiting from and start leveraging to make more money and build a bigger business with public domain.